Dr. Eyal Mayrose, Senior Lecturer of Peace and Conflict Studies at the University of Sydney. Dr. Mayrose, thank you so much for making the time to speak with us. Firstly, let's start off with using aid as a weapon. That never stopped fighting before. So why is that being used as a tactic now to force Hamas's hand?
I think this is only part of the story. I think the Israeli government is using that alongside other elements that it's trying to gamble that Hamas will succumb to coordinated pressure by Israel, the Arab states, and the Americans. So this is only part. It is indeed a war crime to withhold humanitarian aid. But if we go back to the beginning of this current ceasefire, we all knew that the first phase would likely go through, but that the second phase that was supposed to start yesterday was very difficult because neither side was happy about launching into the second phase. For Israel, that would have meant giving up, any kind of future assault on Gaza, withdrawing fully from Gaza, and for the Hamas, that would have meant that they would be left to the whims of Israel and to giving up all the hostages that are in terrible condition. So neither side was happy about that. And we are indeed stuck in this transition from phase one to phase two. And the Americans supporting Israel have come up with this idea of prolonging phase one, something that the Hamas is not willing to go ahead with so far.
This transition to phase two was always uncertain, as you mentioned, but calling for an extension to phase one, is this effectively trying to change the rules of the game?
Yes, I think it is. Again, we knew it might happen. It is changing the rules of the game. If you can call it the lifeline for the Israeli government depends on not going into phase two because the radical extremists in Netanyahu's government are threatening again to topple the government if Israel agrees to full withdrawal from Gaza, something that Netanyahu is not willing to gamble on. And so we knew that this will happen. But again, neither side is happy with the agreement or the likely agreement in relation to phase two. Egypt is also very unhappy because Israel is also refusing to withdraw from the corridor along the border between Israel between Egypt and the Gaza Strip that Israel committed to doing. So nobody's happy at the moment.
So what exactly can mediators do at this point to hold this ceasefire together?
I think the mediators are very much needed. When we talked early on about the ceasefire, we said that two things may ensure the successful completion of all the three phases. That was America or Trump, and second was the Israeli public. Trump doesn't seem to be holding the promise that he gave because the American if you like, the American mediator is offering something that would work towards Israel's interest, but not the Palestinian interest. And so we are left, unfortunately, with the Israeli public that is, by and large, against what the Israeli government is doing now and in favor of going into phase two. So much would depend on how much Netanyahu is afraid of Israeli public opinion versus the risk of toppling its government by a few extremist MPs in his government.
The Trump administration yesterday announced it's expediting the delivery of $4 billion in aid to Israel. Why the urgency? Is there something going on behind the scenes? And how could this impact ongoing negotiations?
Well, Israel is threatening or started mobilizing more forces with a threat of relaunching the invasion into Gaza, a military attack that would require more American weaponry. So I think this can be seen in that light. But again, I think what Netanyahu is kind of following Trump's footsteps in terms of trying to use force and threats to reach a political outcome, something that we've seen Trump doing in relation to Ukraine. So how far would Trump go in supporting Netanyahu in this endeavor and in this calculated or miscalculated possibly risk and threats? We don't know yet.
So can this ceasefire be salvaged? How could this all play out?
The ceasefire can be salvaged. I think the Arab states that have already, expressed their, anger could play a role. The fact that we are going into the holy months of Ramadan, and Israel is afraid of a strong reaction by Muslims all over the world if should it attack during the holy months of Ramadan. So that's another thing. And the third is calculations in the American administration that unfortunately nobody can really predict because Trump is so unpredictable in his decision. So I think a combination between these things and a strong Israeli public opinion pressure may salvage the situation and the ceasefire. I think Netanyahu wouldn't want to start the war again, but whether or not he may do that to salvage his government is, again, on everyone's mind.
Thank you, Dr. Mayrose, for sharing your insights with us. We were speaking to Dr. Eyal Mayrose, Senior Lecturer of Peace and Conflict Studies at the University of Sydney.